Two international pariahs turning to each other when few other allies remain. Russia rolling out the red carpet literally to woo the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, who then grasped President Vladimir Putin's hand for a full 40 seconds upon his arrival today and said, and I'm quoting him now, "He will always be standing with Russia." This visit included a tour of Russia's rocket launch facility, a state dinner, 5 hours of negotiations, and it ended with Kim inviting Putin to Pyongyang. But Putin hoped for a major weapons deal to help his supply and resupply his forces that are in Ukraine. In exchange, we were told he was going to promise to help North Korea's struggling space program. Joining me now tonight is فريد Zakaria, the host of فريد Zakaria GPS. And فريد, I just wonder, seeing these two very isolated leaders meet, toasting as Kim did to Putin's sacred struggle against the West, as he called it, how dangerous do you believe this new era of relations between Russia and North Korea is?
Well, it's not dangerous in the sense that it is a sign of weakness. Vladimir Putin is grasping for straws. He's reaching out to the few people in the international system who are willing to be seen with him. He couldn't go to the BRICS summit in South Africa for fear of being arrested by the South African government on an international warrant. So he is, he is in much worse shape than he was. North Korea is about the last ally you would want in the world. They are a backward, impoverished country. They have a small nuclear program. So it's not really a sign of strength. It's a sign that Putin is, he's up against on the other side. Ukraine's allies number 50, 60 of the richest, most powerful countries in the world. But these are two spoiler states, and by which I mean these are two countries that basically survive and thrive on disrupting the international system, on causing tensions, on causing instability. And in that sense, if the two of them band together more tightly than they are in the past, you could imagine it causing some kind of trouble. North Korea's nuclear ambitions may grow. It may gain some weapons technologies that it hasn't had before. But mostly I think Putin is doing this because there are not a lot of allies he can exchange pleasantries with these days, let alone exchange any kind of meaningful commercial or military dealings.
Yeah. And separately, as the U.S. is looking at this, obviously this is something they are watching very closely this summit. But speaking of leadership here in the military, General Mark Milley is going to be stepping down soon as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's at the end of the month. And you sat down and interviewed him. And you talked about something that we focused on a lot here, which are these allegations about this document that Trump had with him that was allegedly these plans to attack Iran, a classified document that Trump was waving around in front of people who didn't have security clearances. It's part of, obviously, a big investigation into Trump right now. This is what General Milley told you about that alleged document.
There's a specific accusation about you made by the former president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and he says that there is this 4-page memo on attack plan to attack for the United States to attack Iran. Trump himself has talked about this. This is the famous classified document that he was waving around. But Meadows makes the accusation that you were pressing President Trump to attack Iran. There are other reports that say, in fact, it was Trump who was pressing you. What is the accurate statement here?
Well, Freddie, look at it. It'd be very inappropriate for me to comment on anything that's under a current federal investigation, so I won't. But let me just say this. As the chairman, or any member of the Joint Chiefs, our job is to render advice. We have plans for all kinds of things. And when we render advice, typically we say course of action 1, 2, or 3. We talk about the costs and the risks, and we make recommendations. And I can assure you that not one time have I ever recommended to attack Iran.
What'd you make of that pushback, Fareed?
I thought it was striking. In fact, I thought he went a little beyond what he said he was going to go. He said, "I'm not going to comment on this," but it clearly annoyed him enough that he decided to comment on it anyway. And as far as I could tell, that was pretty definitive. Trump has repeatedly claimed, as you say, in those conversations he had with people who had no security clearances, that the Joint Chiefs, that Milley particularly, were pressing him to attack, that this was an attack plan for Iran. Mark Meadows writes that in the prologue of his memoirs, and he gives it pride of place. It is the opening statement of the president's chief of staff. And Milley says definitively that did not happen. It's worth noting that he's right. Milley is right when he says they have attack plans for everything. The United States surely has plans to all kinds of contingencies. But he was pretty definitive that he at no point ever recommended that the United States launch an invasion of Iran.